Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm down at Mooresville Ford and we're going to take a look at this 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost. So huge shout out to them for providing this sports car for me today. Make sure you guys check out their website. All that info is down in the description. The EcoBoost that you see behind me is finished off in dark gray matter metallic and it has a list price right over $30,000. Starting off today's review, let's look at what powers this EcoBoost. Underneath the hood is the 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine. This model is paired to the 10-speed automatic transmission and it pumps out 310 horsepower around 5,500 RPM and 350 pound-feet of torque around 3,000 RPM. That power is sent to the rear wheels. This weighs in right around 3,500 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, up to its top speed of 155 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 15.5 gallons. You'll expect to see around 21 miles per gallon in the city and 32 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 107.1 inches. Its overall length is 188.5. It has a width of 75.4 and a height of 54.3 inches. As we work our way to the exterior styling now for this Ford Mustang, let's start off with the pony logo that you see front and center in the grille. This has a very narrow grille, but it's also wide too, filling in the space very nicely between both of the headlights. There's plenty of cutouts in this mesh too to provide even more cooling to this engine. And moving on to these headlights, these are LEDs. They have a really nice pattern for the DRLs that you can see within the middle there. With the headlight and the high beam, the LED turn signal is nicely placed up underneath, but it has a really nice sleek housing to it, matching nicely with all of the bodywork surrounding it, leading back to the grille. In the lower section, there's even more cutouts, a lot of great contoured lines to give this a unique and sporty look. And also underneath the turn signals, these are functional air inlets. There is a cutout right in front of the wheel where you can see, so airflow can get channeled through there. And there's even functional heat extraction vents in the hood. So from this angle, you can see a little bit of light. It's very hard to show, but in person, you can see right through them. And they have some really nice lines running off of them. And as we work our way to the side, this is the basic Mustang, so we have the 17-inch wheels. They have a nice design to them with that 5-spoke pattern. This has body colored side mirrors, really nice coupe-like design with all these lines. You can see one right at the height of the door handle, as well as in the lower section of the door, and even the side skirt here, just to give it more of a defined look. Really nice line just above that fender arch for the rear tire as well. And leading to the rear, this has a backup camera with the pony logo right in the middle. This also has the sequential turn signals with that 3D design, really iconic for the Ford Mustang. I love that style for them. And then down in the lower diffuser, there's a few more contoured lines with the reverse light right in the center and the dual exhaust with one on each side. And with the exterior wrapped up, let's work our way to the rear cargo area. So you can use the button on the key fob or the one located just to the left side of the backup camera. And when we open this up, there is a lot of storage for this two-door vehicle. There's cutouts over on that driver's side and on the passenger side, just to provide you with even more versatility, being able to put an item sideways. And then underneath the floor is the spare tire, along with a little bit more extra storage if you need to use it. And then with these back seats folded down, you can see there's a lot more interior storage. So that gives you a lot more practicality, especially if this is your daily driver. And the trunk lid is very lightweight, so that is easy to close. And before we get to the seats, let's look at this door panel. To gain access to the interior, I'll just place my hand on the door handle. You can use the top of it to lock it, of course. And then looking at this door panel, there's leather and stitching on this armrest, really nice brush trim piece on the release handle and the grab handle cover. Lock and unlock and the window controls along with the side mirror adjustments are also nicely placed. This has a little bit of storage space down in the lower section of the door, as well as the 9-speaker audio sound system. Mustang is also down on the door sill. And then working our way to the back seats, you do have to pull on the incline and recline tab. You can see the seat go all the way forwards. And these are manual adjusting seats. We have the height adjustment as well as the bar up front to be able to slide this forwards and backwards. And with this seat moved a little bit farther forward, I am 5'10" and I can work my way into the back seat. Now, like I said, the seat is manual adjusting, so I won't be able to move it all the way back from this position here. But I do have plenty of room for my feet and my legs. You can see with this passenger seat, it is currently all the way back, so obviously there is no leg space there, but that is adjustable just depending on who you have in the back. My head is up against the headliner as well, so you're not buying this for a full 4-seater vehicle, but you could fit back here if you needed to use these for extra seating. They have a really nice design to them too, with the support on both sides. They dip down a good bit to give you a little bit more headroom. and there's plenty of visibility out of this back glass if you have people in the back. And like I mentioned earlier, these seats do fold down, so there's a tab you can pull, and when you fold both of these down, again, that gives you a lot more interior storage if you need to use it. But they are practical if you need to use them in a pinch. And then working back to the front seats, with it reset to its position, Mustang is spelled out right in the middle. These are cloth seats with the stitching running down them, so it has a really nice design to it. The door sill is also pretty low, so it makes it easy to enter and exit. We have plenty of room with that door opened up all the way. And looking at this steering wheel, it has really nice black stitching, more of those trim pieces just to match the door panel nicely. The cruise control settings as well as volume and tuning are on this left side. On the right side, there's some more controls for that center screen, as well as the Bluetooth and voice commands. But let's fire this EcoBoost up now. With my foot on the brake, that button is located down below. We can bring this to life. And looking at this gauge cluster, it has a really nice separated design with the tach and the engine temperature on that left side. On the right side is the miles per hour and the fuel gauge. And then front and center is a lot more info to go through using these buttons over on the right side. So under gauge mode, you can pull up distance until empty, as well as miles per hour, even look at TPMS, and then a bunch of vitals, just depending on what you'd like to see and what you'd like to keep track of. There's trip and fuel that you can monitor, as well as some track apps. So you can go into your accelerator, you have different timers, as well as your brake performance, and even line lock. So for this base EcoBoost Mustang, it has line lock where you can do a burnout in this vehicle. Pretty cool to see that for a base model. And you have your screen status that you can monitor as well, along with all the different technology features like blind spot, your driver alert, your cross traffic alert, and all this information. The last one is settings that you can go into, so you can go into the vehicle and just configure all this information just depending on what you like to see. This even has remote start, which you can activate, which is pretty cool, as well as being able to open up the windows with the key fob. You can go into your display setup as well and just monitor all of that information. And then working our way to the left side of the steering wheel, we have the trunk release, as well as all the headlight controls, and even some carbon fiber light trim surrounding that, with one air vent just above it. There's even more of that carbon fiber trim on the dash here surrounding the 3 air vents front and center, with the brushed aluminum Mustang badge over on that airbag cover. And then right in the middle, this does have the smaller screen. All the radio adjustments are on this left side. If I push on this one here, it will look for your mobile apps. So you can add a device, have your phone hooked up and paired. You can shut that screen off if you'd like to. Also pull up some sound settings. And this even has a keypad over on this right side. This is actually for the radio. So you can type in a specific number in order to get to that radio station. Kind of interesting to see that. I don't think you can use this to actually call anybody by putting in a phone number, but it's interesting to see that it is just for the radio. And then look at the clock and different settings to go into. So it doesn't have a lot of information. This is more of a driver vehicle. You can hook up your phone and just pay attention to driving this. There's power and volume on one side and tuning on the other for the radio, with a few other controls for that right in the middle. And then we have physical buttons for the AC. So this is the fan speed. You can shut this on and off. Temperature is on this passenger side, along with where you'd like the air to go. And then underneath that, we have the engine start stop button, of course, along with the hazards, traction control, and then pushing on this button, this even has a steering feel with normal, sport, and comfort. So just depending on how you'd like to drive this and the steering feedback you'd like to have. There's also a 12 volt and a USB down below, and a little bit of storage space in front of the shifter. And with my foot on the brake, the release for the shifter is on the top. If I put it into reverse, this does have that backup camera, as I mentioned earlier, with the guidelines there just to give you even more visibility. And then drive is all the way back. And this even has a sport setting, which you can use putting it into the S. We have the manual parking brake along with 2 cup holders, and there's even a little bit of storage in the center console, along with a 12 volt and a USB if you need to use that. And then the glove box has an ample amount of space for all of the items you need to place there. We'll take one last look at this interior. And up top, this does have the dome lights. So getting this 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost out on the road, this is pretty much the base of the line, or the base model for the Mustang. We have the smaller engine, we have the 10-speed automatic, and that is pretty much it. The Sync 3 system in the middle is probably as basic as you can get, with just having that screen to show you a few items. You can at least pair your phone to it, which is nice to see. So if you have a budget, you have around 30 grand, you want a fun, sporty car, and you don't really need all those extra bells and whistles, honestly, this is a cool vehicle just because it's a Mustang, it's a sports car. If you want a Mustang, again, you don't need power, you don't want the manual transmission, you just want a everyday sports car that you can drive. That's also practical, having the backseat room and the amount of trunk storage space. This is a great option. We don't have the paddle shifters, but I can put it into the S mode there. And just with a mild acceleration, it gets up to speed. I mean, we have over 300 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque, so it's not a slow vehicle compared to other Mustang trim levels. Yes, it's not as quick, but it still has an adequate amount of power for the size and the weight of this vehicle. But aside from that, interior is very basic. We have all the cruise control settings though, all of the steering wheel controls, which is nice, of course, and that's pretty much it. It's a quiet driving vehicle, so if you want something that's quiet, practical, good on MPG, it's a great option. Not really much else to talk about it. We have the carbon fiber-like trim piece, which just gives it a little bit more of that sporty look, even though it is not real. But this is nice. Again, if you're in that budget, we're gonna take this turn. I'll get on a few twisty roads, and we're up to speed. So honestly, it's really not all that bad. There's some tuning potential if you're into that, if you want to get a little bit more power out of this. Okay, it's really holding the revs right around 3,500 with it in sport mode, which is nice because it doesn't have paddle shifters. You can't shift using this shifter either. So if you're taking this on some back mountain roads, maybe some twisties, some of these turns like I'm doing today, obviously nothing crazy, but it'll hold that in a higher RPM. So you can at least have some spirited driving, some fun, high revving driving with this Mustang. It's interesting that it doesn't have the paddle shifters. The 10-speed in this is also a really good transmission. While I can't see what gear the vehicle is in, even with the 10-speed, it doesn't feel like there are so many gears or that many gears. And I like that about the Ford 10-speed transmission. So I've been in some other Ford models that have it, and while 10-speed sounds like a lot of gears, I don't know what gear we're in, probably 4th or 5th. But it doesn't feel like it has that many gears. So probably 7, 8, 9, and 10 are gonna be all the overdrive gears when you're out on the highway to keep those RPMs at a low range. And we're coming up to a bit of a sharp left turn, so we can see how these brakes perform, as well as just going around this turn. For a Mustang, can it take the turn? That's surprising. For a base Mustang, handled that well, plenty of power. We don't have the upgraded brakes or anything like that, but it just felt like a solid turn for a base model vehicle. And now switching over to the POV angle, we have it in the sport mode. Just a mild acceleration up to speed. It really doesn't feel like it's underpowered. It has a healthy amount of horsepower for this 2.3 liter 4-cylinder engine, which is nice to see. So while it's a base model, it doesn't really have that base feeling engine since it has over 300 for both horsepower and torque. Very solid feeling vehicle. I haven't talked about the steering. I have had it in normal so far. We have comfort, which gets very loose. Sport mode, I can feel it get a little bit tighter. So if you're on some twisty roads like this, you can put it into that mode just to get a little bit more driver feedback, which is great to see. So here's a look at the interior from this perspective. Carbon fiber really has a cool design to it. I like that aspect to it. We do have some plastic down surrounding the shifter and the cup holders there. And as we come up to this hard right now, going the opposite direction, we'll give it some gas on the exit. So on the brakes, very solid car, very solid for the price point. And then a quick look at visibility. For the Mustang, it's not all that bad. As we do a quick UE here, very tight in the turning radius. But over my left shoulder, I can see a little bit out of that back window. Over my right shoulder, pillar's not all that bulky, so you really have a 360-degree view, which is great to see. And then we can also see in front of both side mirrors there, just for a little bit more visibility on that passenger side. But that's gonna wrap it up for this 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost. Once again, huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this vehicle for me today. Check out their website, that link is down in the description. Give the video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.